Hi friends, welcome to ZoomCATION Bible School. We're so glad you're here today. We have some fun crafts and we also have some fun story. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to play a game with me. I'm going to ask you to give me the answer. Would you rather? So here's a question. Would you rather go to the zoo or would you rather go to the park? If you're going to go to the park, what do you want to play at the park? What are you going to do at the park? If you're going to go to the zoo, what animal do you want to see at the zoo? Are you telling me? Are you going to go see the hippo? Are you going to go see the big cats? Do you like the monkeys? Do you know what Pastor Charles wants to go see? Of course, the giraffes. I love giraffes. So, what would you rather do? Would you rather ride a bike or would you rather ride a scooter? Okay. Would you rather go to the beach or would you rather go to the mountains? I'd rather go to the mountains. Or would you rather go to the shore? Would you rather have pizza or would you rather have a hamburger? Yep, lots of people have said pizza. Would you rather go on a plane up in the air or would you rather go on a boat? Great answer. Okay, I'd like you to find your Ziploc bag that has a white straw, a yellow piece of pool noodle, you're right, and a little piece of paper. First thing you're gonna do, did you get the bag? Great. Now, you're gonna take the little piece of paper and you're gonna put the straw through the paper. See if you can do that. Okay, slowly getting it in. Ta-da! Now, this looks like it's a flag. It could be a flag. Also, it could be a bird. But I think today it's part of a boat. It's the mast of a boat. It's the sail of a boat. So find your pool noodle and look for the little tiny dot, a little hole in it. And go ahead and put your flag on your boat. Go ahead and put the sail on your boat, right? Okay, just like that. Now, as I tell the story, there's gonna be a boat in it today. And Jesus, it gets in the boat. So I wonder if when the story is calm, you just might move your boat along while I tell the story calmly. And then a storm comes up. Oh, I know. And then I want you to make the storm go crazy with the boat. Oh my goodness, just like that. Can you do that? I bet you can. Are you ready to hear the story? Fabulous. Let's listen together. I want to share with you today our story it's actually in Mark chapter 4 and it's also in Matthew chapter 8. This is one of my favorite Bible stories. The sun was going down and the air was warm and still. Let's go across the lake, Jesus said to his friends. Jesus had been helping people all day and now he was tired. So they left the crowds at the shore and set out in a small fishing boat. Jesus climbed into the boat to take a nap. Oh, that sounds good. As soon as his head touched the pillow, he fell asleep. It was a beautiful evening, and the gentle breeze rustled the sails, and the friends were chatting happily as they headed out into the middle of the lake. Everything was perfect, just right for a nice, quiet sail. Okay, there's Jesus sleeping in the boat, and here are the disciples just chatting and hanging out. It is so calm. Beautiful sunset. Do you see the tree over on the land? It's so calm that there's actually a reflection of the boat. What? Look at this. Change this way the book goes. Looks like they're not calm anymore. They were only about halfway across when out of nowhere, whirling swept across the lake, fierce and strong, like a hurricane. Blinding flashes of lightning lit up the sky, and a thunder roared overhead, and the storm blew the water into towering waves that hurled the little boat up and up. When it was hurling, crashing, came down, back down and down. Oh my goodness, what a storm. The fishing boat was blown and buffeted and tossed and turned and back and forth and up and down and left and right and around and around and around and around and around. And in the middle of the storm, Jesus was asleep. Now, Jesus' friends had been fishermen all their lives, but in all their years fishing on this lake, they had never once seen a storm like this one. No matter how hard they had struggled with their ropes and sails, they couldn't control their boats. This storm was too big for them. Wow, wonder what they're gonna do. Look at how big the waves are. Look at the thunder and the lightning coming down. Look at that. Oh my goodness, he's barely holding on. And Jesus is still taking a nap. And look at the disciples, their faces. Whoa! But the storm wasn't too big for Jesus. Help, they screamed. Wake up, quick! Jesus! Jesus opened his eyes. Rescue us, save us, they shrieked. Don't you care? Of course Jesus cared. This was the very reason he had come, to rescue them, to save them. Jesus stood up and spoke to the storm. Hush, he said. That's all. And the strangest thing happened. Look at those big waves. Wow, those are big waves. The wind and the waves recognized Jesus' voice. They had heard it before, of course. It was the same voice that made them in the very beginning. They listened to Jesus and they did what he said. And immediately the storm stopped and the waters calmed down. It glittered innocently in the moonlight and lapped quietly against the sides of the boat as if nothing had happened. The little boat bobbed gently up and down, and there was a deep stillness and a great quiet all around. Then Jesus turned to his wind-torn friends and said, Why? Why were you scared? He asked. Did you forget who I am? Did you forget your fears instead of me? Did you believe your fears instead of me? Jesus' friends were quiet as the wind and the waves. And in their hearts came a different kind of storm. What kind of man is this? They said to themselves anxiously. Even the wind and the waves obey him, they said, because they didn't understand. They didn't realize yet that Jesus was the Son of God. Jesus' friends had been so afraid they had only seen the big waves. They'd forgotten that if Jesus was with them, then they had nothing to be afraid of, no matter how small their boat was or how big the storm. Mark chapter 4, Matthew chapter 8. Look at the boat. Look at Jesus and his disciples, so calm. Look at the stars shining in the sky. With Jesus, we have peace, even when we're in the middle of a storm. No matter how big the storms are, we always have the opportunity to calm down, to remember and to hold on to the truth that Jesus is with us always, even when it feels like we're in a wild storm. Oh, I'm so glad for Jesus. He's always with us. Our faith can always be bigger than our fear. It's not a great story. Did your boat get tossed around? Mine did. Sometimes it takes me a while to remember that even when I'm in a storm, or I feel like things are a little bit wild in my life and I'm bobbing up and down, or I feel like my emotions are bobbing up and down, or I'm afraid of something, sometimes I have a hard time remembering quickly that Jesus is with me, and that peace, and that I can cry out to Jesus, Jesus, I'm in the middle of a storm, help me, give me your peace. Sometimes I forget that. Sometimes I need to be reminded of that. That's why I like to read the Bible stories so much. Sometimes we feel like we might sink. So let's play a game called Float or Sink. So I'm going to show you something, and you guess, we'll guess together, if it'll float or if it'll sink. Let's try, let's try a camel. Do you think the camel will float, or do you think it'll sink? Good question. It does have a hole in it, so it might sink, but it also might float. Let's try. Well, right now, it looks like it's floating. Okay, we'll come back to that. Should we let him just hang out in the pot, in the bowl? Nah, I think we'll set him off to the side, you're right. Okay, how about a lemon? Will a lemon sink, or will it float? Do you have your guess? Let's try it out. Oh, it looked like it was gonna sink, but it's floating. Good guess. Good guess. Okay, let's try something else. What about an astronaut? Will the astronaut float, or will the astronaut sink? Okay, let's see if you're right. Oh, right to the bottom. Sunk right to the bottom. Good thing to know about astronauts, right? They might be able to float in air, but they sink to the bottom of water. Okay, what about our boats? Do you think it's gonna sink, or do you think it's gonna float? Here we go. What? Of course, it's a boat. It's gonna float. Even when the boat gets in a storm and the waves get big, you just have to remember Jesus is with us. Okay, how about Princess Leia Potato Head? Do you think she's gonna sink, or do you think she's gonna float? Okay, let's try. Here she goes. Princess Leia, what you doing? She's floating, but she looks like she's gonna sink. Gonna just leave her there for a minute. Oh, lots of bubbles coming. What? She's still floating. Okay, good to know. Sometimes we think we might feel like we're sinking, but God is always with us, and our hope helps us float, helps us have our hearts come up, helps us have our spirits come up. We just have to turn our hearts towards God. God will always help us float instead of feel like we're sinking. Thanks be to God. Isn't that good? Okay, now I have another craft for us today that's going to help us remember that Jesus' peace is with us, and that there can be calm even when there's a storm. Today we're going to make a storm jar. So if you have a jar that I gave you, then you have a little bit of oil all the way up to the first number 2, right? So if you got a jar and it's empty, you're going to want to go 1/3 up. Whatever the first marking is on your jar, you're going to fill that with vegetable oil, okay? Now, if you've already got your jar, you're already set. I'm going to work on a paper towel so that if I get any extra glitter, that it will end up in my jar. Now, if your jar is covered with glitter because it came in your bag, then you're going to want to wipe off your jar, and then you're going to want to dump all of the glitter that's in your Ziploc into your jar, okay? That's a lot of glitter. Try to keep it in the jar and in the bag, right? Glitter gets everywhere. Okay, so we get that in the jar, and it looks like this. And now we take some food coloring. Now, if you have food coloring from me, I may have given you blue food coloring or I gave you yellow and green because that's the color of water, right? Now, green is my favorite color, so I am gonna do, actually, I made a green one, but this time I'm gonna make a different color. So I'm gonna do 4 dashes of green, and then I'm feeling kind of wild, so I'm gonna do 3 dashes of red. What color do you think I'm gonna get? What's your favorite color? Okay, now, so you've got your food coloring in, you've got your oil in, and you've got your glitter in. Let's put some water in. So if the first one is up to the mark of 2, we're gonna take the next one, or it's actually just below 2. If you go around to the other side, it's on 50. We're gonna go up to 150 with water, okay? You might need a grown-up's help with this. There you go. Ooh, that's awfully dark. Then I'm gonna put the lid on. First the sealer, and then I'm gonna put on the ring, and I'm gonna tie it as tight as I can. Go to the right because that'll make it tight. If you want it to go loose, you go left, but first you go right. And then you shake it up. And you think, oh my goodness, I'm in a storm just like Jesus and his disciples. And then Jesus speaks, and it starts to get calm again. I think these are great storm jars because they help us remember when we're feeling like we're in a storm, when we feel like we're getting shook up, when our emotions are going wild. We can come and shake our storm jars and wait for them to come back to a time of peace. And just kind of sit and wait. That can be a time of prayer and just saying, help me, Jesus, which is one of the best prayers. Or it can be a time of coming to it, getting back to being a peaceful jar, and then we say, thank you, Jesus. So I don't know if you're feeling like you're in a storm or if you're feeling like you're in a time of peace. Either way, Jesus is with you and Jesus loves you. Aren't we glad for that? So I hope you have fun making your storm jar and playing with it, right? Very cool. Okay, so that is that. Do you wonder what's for snack today? I wonder if you got a bag of salt. You probably did. Here's our bag of salt. Now, to the salt, we're going to add a bunch of ice. Okay? So I would say probably 1 big ice tray. I keep my ice in a bag so I can make more ice. So I've got a bag of ice, so that's about 1 ice tray. If you want to make more, if you want to put more in there, that's okay as well. So, and then I would get a dish towel from the kitchen. So you've got your salt and you've got your ice, and you're going to watch out that the salt doesn't get out of the bag. It goes a little wild and it's kind of big and chunky, and you don't want to eat it because it's not good. So you take your towel and you put it down, and you put your bag of salt and your bag of ice on the middle of your towel. Then you might have a bag of milk for me, or you'll have a Ziploc bag like this that you could add milk to. You're gonna wanna add a 1/2 cup of milk, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and that's what's in this bag. And you wanna make sure that you seal it really, really good. No air bubbles, no openings. Make sure you get it really good and tight. Then you're gonna put this bag, the little bag with milk in it, into the big bag. And you're gonna wanna try to get it into the middle of the salt and the middle of the ice. And then you fold it down a little bit and get as much air out of the big bag as you can. Okay, and then seal that baby up. Now, if you wanted to add food coloring, you could, but I'm not gonna add food coloring today. So what I have is a bag of salt and a bag of ice, and in that I have my milk, and that's gonna go in my towel. And I'm gonna take two ends of the towel and I'm gonna tie it up. Okay, and then I'm gonna take the other ends of my towel. Oh, that came out. You might need some help from a grown-up. Once you get those tied, then you're gonna take the other ends, you're gonna tie those, and then, can you hear that? Can you hear the ice and the salt shaking? So you're gonna start shaking. You might wanna set a timer. Set a timer, start shaking, and do it for 5 minutes. Now, if you get tired, you might share it. You might pass it around. Let the family help. Keep shaking. That's a fun sound. Kind of sounds like it could be a storm sound, right? Keep shaking. Keep shaking. You're gonna shake for 5 minutes, and then you're gonna stick it in the freezer. I would let it sit in the freezer for close to 2 hours. When you take it out, it should be ice cream, vanilla ice cream. If you shake and shake and shake, you'll either have ice cream or you'll have a milkshake, but either way, it'll be a nice, fun treat. It's a hot summer day, and we need to remember that when we feel shaken, when we feel like we're in a storm, Jesus is with us, and we are loved all the time. Thanks for coming to ZoomCATION Bible School, friends. Really fun to see you today. I hope you know how much you're loved. I know that God loves you, and so does Pastor Charles. We'll see you next time.